The difference wasn't just physical training, it was the understanding that came with it. The knowledge that humanity's strength wasn't a threat to be feared, but a gift to be shared. And the galaxy was finally learning that lesson. The alien delegation materialized inside Fitness Core Alpha at 060 hours, and within 90 seconds, 3 of them were on the floor. Commander Kyle Barrett dropped his barbell mid-rep when the emergency klaxon screamed through the facility. The weight plates hit the rubber mat with a thunderous crash as he spun toward the commotion near the entrance. 6 crystalline beings, each standing roughly 7 feet tall with limbs like blown glass, swayed near the doorway. Their translucent bodies flickered with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed erratically. "Medical to Section 1 now," Kyle barked into his wristcom, already sprinting across the gym floor. His boots pounded against the rubberized surface as other humans abandoned their workouts and converged on the visitors. The lead alien, whose nameplate translated as Ambassador Krell, raised one fragile appendage. "We came to observe human physical conditioning protocols," it said through its translator device, voice trembling. "We did not anticipate." It collapsed. Kyle caught the ambassador before it hit the ground, surprised at how light the being felt despite its height. Like holding a bundle of hollow tubes. 2 more aliens crumpled beside their leader, their biolights dimming to faint glows. What the hell happened? Lieutenant Nina Flores skidded to a stop beside him, her face flushed from her morning run on the track above. "They just got here." The gravity, another alien wheezed, still standing but barely. And the atmospheric density, your oxygen saturation. The ambient temperature. "How do you function in such extreme conditions?" Kyle stared at the creature. Extreme? The gym was set to standard Earth parameters, 72 degrees Fahrenheit, 21% oxygen, 1 G of gravity. This was baseline. This was comfortable. "You're telling me normal Earth conditions are crushing you?" Nina asked, already helping stabilize another fallen alien. "Normal?" The alien's voice cracked with what might have been panic. "Your world is a death trap. We knew humans were from a high-gravity planet, but we did not comprehend the reality until this moment." The medical team burst through the doors with emergency grav sleds and portable atmosphere tents. They moved with practiced efficiency, loading the collapsed aliens onto the sleds and adjusting environmental controls. Kyle looked around the gym. Humans were everywhere, doing what they did every morning, lifting hundreds of pounds, running for miles, pushing their bodies to absolute limits and then pushing further, sweating, grunting, thriving in conditions that had just hospitalized an advanced alien species within 2 minutes of arrival. "We volunteered for this cultural exchange," the standing alien whispered as medics surrounded it. "We wanted to understand human strength. We were warned, but we thought your reputation was exaggerated." "Exaggerated?" Kyle glanced at the weight bench where he'd been pressing 300 pounds before the alarm. "Standard warm-up weight." "We've been here 117 seconds, the alien said as its legs finally gave out. "And we require immediate evacuation." Nina caught Kyle's eye. Neither spoke, but the realization hit them simultaneously. This wasn't even a workout yet. The medical bay filled with controlled chaos as xenobiologists scrambled to stabilize 6 dying aliens. Dr. Lauren Hayes moved between the isolation pods, her scanner flashing red warnings across every screen. Behind the reinforced glass, the crystalline beings lay motionless under custom atmosphere domes that hummed with the strain of maintaining their home-world conditions. "Vitals are crashing on Ambassador Krell," she called out, fingers dancing across the holographic interface, microfractures forming throughout its skeletal structure. It's like the gravity is literally crushing it from the inside. Kyle stood outside Pod 3, watching through the transparent barrier as the alien he'd caught struggled to breathe. The facility's chief medical officer, Dr. Vincent Shaw, appeared at his shoulder with a data tablet that displayed horrifying readings. "Commander, we need to understand what happened in there," Vincent said, his voice tight with urgency. "These beings have been in space for 2 centuries. They've visited dozens of worlds. How did 2 minutes in our gym nearly kill them?" Nina pushed through the crowd of personnel, her own tablet glowing with incoming reports. "I've got their ship sending us frantic messages. Apparently, the delegation was supposed to observe from orbit using remote drones. They decided to surprise us with an in-person visit." "Surprise us?" Kyle's jaw tightened. They surprised themselves into the morgue. One of the aliens, smaller than the others and marked as Science Officer Thren, stirred inside its pod, prackled to life, distorted by the atmospheric barriers. We calculated incorrectly. We believed our exosuits would compensate for your environmental extremes. Lauren checked her scanner. Their exosuits failed the moment they materialized. The power cells couldn't handle the energy draw. They were trying to counteract 1 full G of gravity, higher oxygen levels, and temperature differentials all at once. 1 G is an extreme, Nina said flatly. That's just Earth. That's home. For you. Thren's lights pulsed weakly. Our world has 0.3 G. Our atmosphere is thin, cold, and low in reactive gases. We evolved in gentleness. You evolved in a furnace wrapped in a crushing vice. Kyle moved closer to the pod. Then why come to the gym? Why not start somewhere easier? An office? A park? Because we needed to see your physical training, Thren said, each word seeming to cost it energy. Your species is spreading through the galaxy at unprecedented speed. You're establishing colonies on worlds we consider uninhabitable. You're outperforming civilizations that have been spacefaring for millennia. We needed to understand the source of your advantage. Vincent pulled up a comparison chart on his tablet. Commander, look at this. The average human can exert force equivalent to 15 times what these beings can manage. Our bone density is triple theirs. Our muscle fiber composition is fundamentally different. We're not just stronger, we're built entirely differently. Built for survival, Lauren added, checking another pod where Ambassador Krell's condition had finally stabilized. Earth is classified as a Category 4 death world by galactic standards. Only 3% of known species can survive there unassisted. Nina leaned against the wall, her expression shifting from concern to something else. Psst, so when we're just existing on Earth, doing normal human things, we're already operating at levels most aliens can't even imagine? Correct, Thren confirmed. Your baseline is our emergency maximum. What you consider a casual morning routine would kill most of the Galactic Council within an hour. Kyle thought about the gym, about the weights he lifted every day, the runs that cleared his mind, the training that every human considered basic, necessary, normal. We weren't even working out yet when you arrived. We were just warming up. Silence filled the medical bay. Technicians paused their work. Doctors looked up from their stations. The weight of that statement settled over everyone. Warming up, Thren repeated, its voice barely a whisper through the translator. Of course you were. You hadn't begun to push your limits. You were merely preparing to push your limits. The difference between those two states would have killed us all. Another alarm shrieked. Pod 6 flashed critical warnings. Lauren rushed to it as the alien inside convulsed. We're losing this one. Its entire respiratory system is shutting down. Vincent was already moving, injecting emergency stabilizers through the pod's medical port. The atmospheric processors can't keep up. It's still being exposed to trace amounts of Earth normal air. That's enough to poison it. Kyle watched the medical team fight to save a being that had nearly died just by standing in the same room where humans exercised, where children played, where people pushed themselves because it felt good, because they wanted to be better, because that's what humans did. The galaxy had no idea what they were dealing with. Admiral Patricia Vance arrived at Fitness Core Alpha 3 hours after the incident, her command shuttle screaming through the atmosphere fast enough to rattle windows. Kyle met her at the landing pad, still in his workout gear because there hadn't been time to change. 6 ambassadors nearly dead, Commander, she said, striding past him toward the medical bay. The Galactic Council is screaming for answers. 3-member species are threatening to pull their delegations from Earth entirely. Tell me we didn't just start an interstellar incident because someone left a weight rack out. Ma'am, they teleported directly into our facility without clearance, Kyle said, matching her pace. We didn't even know they were coming. I don't care about protocols right now, Barrett. I care about the fact that we hospitalized an entire diplomatic team by existing in our own building. They burst into the medical bay where Vincent had set up a command center among the isolation pods. Holographic displays showed vital signs, atmospheric readings, and damage assessments. Every metric looked worse than the last. "Admiral on deck," Vincent called out, not bothering to salute. His hands never stopped moving across the medical controls. "We've stabilized 4 of them. 2 are still critical. Ambassador Krell is conscious and demanding to speak with you." Patricia moved to the ambassador's pod, her reflection distorted in the curved, transparent surface. The crystalline being inside looked dimmer than before, its internal lights barely visible. When it spoke, the translator added a synthetic quality that made every word sound fragile. "Admiral Vance, I must apologize for our catastrophic miscalculation," Krell said. "We have created a diplomatic crisis through our own arrogance." "You're alive, Ambassador. That's what matters right now." Patricia's voice softened slightly. "But I need to understand what happened. Your species has been exploring the galaxy for 200 years. You've encountered dozens of worlds. How did Earth catch you this unprepared?" Krell's lights pulsed in a pattern that the translator interpreted as bitter amusement. "Because we believed the reports about humanity were propaganda, exaggeration designed to intimidate potential rivals. When your species appeared on the galactic stage 50 years ago and immediately began colonizing worlds we considered impossible to inhabit, we assumed you were using advanced technology we hadn't discovered yet." Nina entered the bay carrying a sealed container, her face grim. "Admiral, we recovered the remains of their exosuits. Engineering has been analyzing them." She placed the container on a table and activated the holographic display. Twisted metal and shattered power cells materialized above the surface, rotating slowly. The damage was catastrophic. "These suits are incredible," Nina continued. "They're more advanced than anything we've built. The power systems alone are decades ahead of our technology. They were designed to protect the wearer from extreme environments and augment physical capabilities by a factor of 10. And they failed in 2 minutes. Patricia said. "They didn't fail, ma'am. They burned out. The power cells were trying to generate enough force to counteract Earth's gravity while simultaneously managing atmospheric pressure, oxygen filtration, and temperature regulation. The energy requirements exceeded the maximum output by 300%. The suits literally tore themselves apart trying to keep their occupants alive." Kyle stared at the ruined technology. "These suits would let them survive on worlds we'd consider moderate, but on Earth, in a gym where we were just standing around, they couldn't handle it." "That is correct," Krell said, the translator conveying exhaustion. "Your baseline environment requires more protective measures than most species need for extreme exploration. You live every day in conditions that would be classified as a survival scenario for 80% of known civilizations." Patricia crossed her arms, her expression unreadable. "Ambassador, I need you to be very clear about something. Are you telling me that Earth is considered a hostile environment by galactic standards?" "Hostile is insufficient terminology," Thren interjected from its pod across the room. "Earth is classified as a hell world. Your gravity crushes. Your oxygen corrodes. Your temperature extremes are lethal. Your atmospheric pressure is overwhelming. Your microbial life is viciously competitive. Your weather patterns are catastrophically violent, and your species not only survives there, you thrive there. You built a global civilization there. You consider it paradise." Vincent pulled up a star chart that showed Earth's position among thousands of cataloged worlds. A color-coding system marked each planet by habitability. Earth glowed bright red. "This is the Galactic Habitability Index," he explained. "Green worlds are ideal for most species. Yellow worlds require minor adaptation. Orange worlds need significant technological support. Red worlds are considered unsurvivable without extreme measures." He pointed at Earth. "We're one of 47 red-class worlds in known space. 30. One of those are completely uninhabited. Of the 16 with native life, only 4 have developed sapient species. We're the only red world civilization that has achieved spaceflight." Patricia let that information sink in. Around the medical bay, human personnel went about their work, breathing easily, moving naturally, existing comfortably in an environment that was actively trying to kill their alien visitors, even through advanced protective barriers. "How many species can survive on Earth unassisted?" Patricia asked. 4, Krell answered immediately, "including yours. The other 3 are not spacefaring and live in isolated environments. Your species is unique in having conquered your entire world despite its hostility. An alarm blared. Pod 2 flashed critical warnings. Lauren rushed to it, her hands flying across the controls. The isolation barrier is degrading. We're getting atmospheric contamination. The alien inside thrashed weakly as Earth's normal air seeped into its enclosure. Just parts per million of regular oxygen, nitrogen, and trace gases. It was enough to send the being into toxic shock. Emergency purge, Vincent shouted, triggering protocols. Pure atmosphere from the alien's homeworld flooded the pod, pushing out the contaminated air. The being's convulsions slowed, then stopped. Patricia watched the near-death unfold in seconds. Commander Barrett, clear the gym. I want every human out of that facility immediately. These pods are in the medical bay, which has the best atmospheric controls on the station. If we can barely keep them alive here, we can't risk them anywhere else. Kyle activated his comm. All personnel evacuate Fitness Core Alpha. Priority 1. Move now. Through the windows, they could see humans filing out of the gym. Confused but compliant. Leaving behind the weights and machines and equipment that had nearly killed 6 aliens just by being in the same building. They came to understand human strength, Patricia said quietly. I think they understand now. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session 16 hours later, and Patricia found herself standing before a chamber filled with beings who looked at humanity with newly terrified eyes. The holographic feed transmitted her image across light years to the Council's home station, where representatives from 43 species watched from their own specialized environmental pods. Admiral Vance, Council Arbiter Zenther began, its serpentine form coiled inside a high-pressure methane chamber. Humanity stands accused of reckless endangerment of diplomatic personnel. The delegation to your facility suffered near-fatal injuries within moments of arrival. We demand an explanation and assurances this will never happen again. Patricia stood perfectly still, her uniform crisp despite having been awake for 20 straight hours. Behind her, a live feed showed the medical bay where the 6 aliens remained in critical but stable condition. With respect, Arbiter, my people did nothing wrong, she said clearly. The delegation teleported into our facility without authorization, without proper environmental preparation, and without informing us of their vulnerability to standard Earth conditions. We responded immediately with emergency medical intervention that saved all 6 lives. A mantis-like creature in a low-gravity chamber clicked its mandibles rapidly. You claim innocence while your world's natural state nearly murdered our colleagues? I claim that Earth is our home, Patricia replied, her voice hard as steel. We don't apologize for the planet we evolved on. Ambassador Krell and his team made a calculated risk. They knew the dangers and came anyway. That decision was theirs, not ours. Murmurs rippled through the council. Several species shifted uncomfortably in their enclosures. One being resembling a floating jellyfish in a water tank pulsed with agitated colors. The humans are correct, Krell's voice suddenly interrupted, transmitted from the medical bay. I demand to address the council. The feed split, showing the ambassador and his isolation pod. His crystalline body looked stronger now, his internal lights brighter after hours of intensive treatment. When he spoke, his translator carried firm conviction. I authorized the unscheduled visit against protocol, Krell continued. I disregarded safety recommendations from my own science team. I believed humanity's reputation was inflated, that their world could not possibly be as extreme as reported. I was catastrophically wrong, and my arrogance nearly cost 6 lives. The humans are not at fault here. If anything, they demonstrated remarkable compassion by saving us when they had every right to let natural selection take its course. Zenthar's form tightened. Ambassador, you're defending the species that hospitalized you? I'm defending the truth, Krell said. Council members, we have failed to understand what humanity represents. They are not simply another spacefaring species. They are survivors of a world that actively attempted to kill them for millions of years. They adapted. They overcame. They built civilization in hell and called it home. We must recalibrate our entire understanding of human capabilities. Nina stepped forward beside Patricia, her tablet displaying new data that appeared on every council member's screen simultaneously. We've compiled a comparison analysis. With the council's permission, I'd like to present our findings. Xanther gestured agreement, and Nina activated the presentation. Statistics flooded the displays, each one more shocking than the last. Average human bone density exceeds galactic standard by 240%, Nina began, her voice steady. Muscle fiber tensile strength is 400% above average. Cardiovascular efficiency under stress conditions outperforms 89% of known species. Our healing factor is classified as accelerated by medical standards used by 37 civilizations. We can consume and digest substances that are toxic to most species. Our immune systems wage constant warfare against microscopic threats that don't even exist on most worlds. She pulled up footage from the gym, showing humans engaged in routine exercises, lifting weights, running on treadmills, doing pull-ups and push-ups and burpees. Normal morning workout routines that look like superhuman feats to the watching council members. This is standard physical conditioning for human civilians, Nina continued. Not soldiers, not athletes. Regular people maintaining basic fitness, the forces they generate, the endurance they display, the damage they inflict on their own bodies and then repair through rest. These capabilities emerge naturally from living on Earth. A council member shaped like a geometric crystal cluster spoke up, its voice chiming like bells. You're saying humans are this strong simply because your world demands it? Yes, Patricia answered. Earth doesn't give us a choice. Adapt or die. Our ancestors who couldn't handle the gravity didn't pass on their genes. The ones who couldn't breathe our oxygen didn't survive. The ones who couldn't endure our temperature swings didn't reproduce. Natural selection on a hell world doesn't create average specimens. It creates survivors. Vincent's voice joined the transmission from the medical bay. Council members, I've been treating your delegation for 18 hours now. I've learned something important about your physiologies. Most of you evolved on gentle worlds, stable climates, mild gravity, peaceful conditions. Your bodies are optimized for efficiency, not resilience. Your elegant solutions to easy problems. He gestured to the isolation pods around him. Humans are ugly solutions to impossible problems. We're overbuilt, over-muscled, over-aggressive, and over-adapted for environments most species will never encounter. We're not better than you. We're just built for different circumstances. Krell's lights pulsed in agreement. Dr. Shaw is correct. We've been treating humanity as peer competitors in a technological race. But the truth is more fundamental. You didn't just reach the stars despite your world. You reached them because of your world. Earth made you strong enough to leave it. The council chamber fell silent. Patricia watched species that had explored the galaxy for centuries grapple with a simple truth they'd overlooked. Humans weren't advanced. They weren't particularly clever. They weren't even especially good at space travel compared to civilizations with millennia of practice. But they were tough, unreasonably, impossibly, frighteningly tough. What do you want from this council, Admiral? Xanther finally asked, its tone substantially different than before. Patricia straightened her shoulders. I want humanity recognized for what we are, not monsters. Not threats, just people who come from a harsh world and carry that strength with us wherever we go. We're not trying to intimidate anyone, we're just being ourselves. She paused, then added with iron certainty, and we're not changing our facilities, our protocols, or our way of life to accommodate visitors who won't take basic safety precautions. Earth is our home. If you want to visit, come prepared. We'll help anyone who asks. But we won't apologize for being human. The council members exchanged glances across their various enclosures. The weight of Patricia's words settled over the chamber like gravity itself. Xanther finally spoke. Your terms are acceptable, Admiral Vance. Humanity will face no sanctions. Instead, we will issue updated safety protocols for Earth contact, and perhaps we will approach your species with the respect you have earned. The transmission ended. Patricia let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Behind her, through the medical bay windows, humans returned to the gym and resumed their workouts. Just another day on Earth. 2 weeks after the incident, Kyle stood in the newly constructed observation gallery overlooking Fitness Core Alpha. The gallery floated above the main gym floor, encased in reinforced transparent aluminum and equipped with independent life support systems. Inside the climate-controlled viewing area, Ambassador Krell and Science Officer Thren stood beside him. their bodies supported by advanced gravity compensators that hummed with steady power. "We upgraded the systems," Kyle explained, gesturing to the equipment keeping them alive. "These compensators are triple redundant. You're experiencing 0.3 G right now, same as your homeworld. The atmospheric mix matches your requirements exactly. Temperature, pressure, everything. Yet we can observe humans in their natural element," Krell said, watching the gym floor below where dozens of humans moved through their morning routines. "Remarkable engineering. It was the least we could do," Kyle replied. "You almost died trying to understand us. Seems fair to give you a safe way to finish what you started." Below them, Nina was deadlifting 405 pounds. Her face showed concentration but not strain. Across the floor, another human was doing weighted pull-ups with 90 pounds strapped to his waist. A woman ran on a treadmill set to a brutal incline, sweat pouring down her face, breathing hard but steady. "How much weight is Lieutenant Flores lifting?" Thren asked, its lights pulsing with what Kyle had learned to recognize as fascination. "About 184 kilograms, Kyle answered. "That's moderate weight for her skill level. She's training for a powerlifting competition next month. She'll probably attempt over 200 kilograms there." Ren's entire body flickered. "That mass is 3 times my body weight. She is lifting 3 of me. For recreation." "Well, for competition," Kyle corrected. "But yeah, essentially." Krell moved closer to the window, his compensator adjusting automatically. "Commander, may I ask you a personal question?" "Sure. Do you enjoy this? The physical strain, the deliberate damage you inflict on your muscle tissue, the exhaustion?" Kyle considered the question carefully. Below, a man finished a set of bench presses and sat up, chest heaving, face flushed with effort. He was grinning. "Yeah," Kyle said simply. "We do. It feels good to push our limits, to discover we're stronger than we thought, to wake up sore and know we earned it. It's not just about fitness or health. It's about testing ourselves against our own potential. Even though your world already tests you constantly," Thren observed. "Your gravity pulls at you every moment. Your atmosphere demands your cardiovascular system work continuously. Your temperature variations require constant adaptation. Yet still you add artificial challenges. Because that's what humans do," Kyle said, watching Nina finish her set and immediately move to the squat rack. "Earth made us tough, but we made ourselves tougher. We're not satisfied with just surviving. We want to see how far we can go." A new figure entered the gym floor below. Admiral Patricia Vance, out of uniform and wearing workout clothes that revealed a lean, muscular frame built by decades of military training. She moved to a rowing machine and set a brutal pace, her movements precise and powerful. "Your Admiral trains alongside enlisted personnel?" Krell asked, clearly surprised. "Rank doesn't matter in the gym," Kyle explained. "Everyone's equal when you're under the bar. The Admiral probably pushes herself harder than anyone because she knows we're watching. Leadership by example." The 3 of them observed in silence for several minutes. The gym floor was a controlled chaos of motion and effort. Weights clanged, feet pounded on treadmills. Humans grunted and sweated and pushed themselves through barrier after barrier. "We've been analyzing the footage from our arrival," Thren said eventually, breaking the quiet. "The moment we materialized, we've studied every second in detail." "And?" Kyle asked. "You were performing what you called a warm-up set. 300 pounds, you said. 136 kilograms. Thren's lights shifted to a color Kyle couldn't interpret. "Commander, that weight would crush my entire body instantly. The gravity compensator I'm wearing right now couldn't generate enough force to lift even half that mass. Yet you were lifting it repeatedly as preparation for actual exercise." Kyle felt uncomfortable suddenly, aware of the vast gulf between their capabilities. "I'm sorry, I know this must be difficult to process." "Difficult?" Krell's lights flashed bright. "Commander, it's terrifying. And humbling and strangely inspiring. We came to Earth expecting to find a peer species, perhaps slightly stronger due to environmental factors, but fundamentally similar to us. Instead, we discovered something unprecedented. Patricia finished her rowing set and moved to join a group doing partner exercises. 2 humans facing each other, one doing push-ups while the other held a plank position above them, working together, supporting each other's weight, making difficulty out of proximity. We've convened with representatives from 19 other species since our recovery, Krell continued. Every single one has expressed the same realization. Humanity isn't just another civilization joining the galactic community. You're an entirely different category of being. You're what happens when evolution occurs in extremis. Kyle turned from the window to face the ambassador directly. Does that scare the rest of the galaxy? Yes, Krell answered honestly. It terrifies them. 50 years ago, humans appeared with slower-than-light ships and primitive weapons. Now you have colonies on 16 worlds, including 3 that were previously considered impossible to terraform. You've developed technologies in decades that took us centuries. You're expanding faster than any species in recorded history. And now they know why, Thren added. Because challenge is your natural state. Overcoming impossible odds isn't exceptional for humans. It's Tuesday. Below, Nina had finished her squat session and was helping another human load plates onto a bar. 8 plates on each side. 495 pounds total. The other human positioned himself under the bar, took a breath, and lifted. That's Marcus Grant, Kyle said. He's a cargo specialist. Loads supply shuttles for deep space missions. This is his lunch break workout. The weight rose smoothly. Marcus descended into a full squat, the bar bending slightly under the load. Then he stood back up, muscles straining but movement controlled. He completed 5 repetitions before racking the weight. A cargo specialist? Krell repeated slowly. Not a soldier. Not an athlete. A logistics worker who moves supplies. And he can generate force equivalent to what our most advanced industrial equipment requires to accomplish. Humans are the industrial equipment, Thren said quietly. Your biological machines optimized for work in hostile environments. Every single one of you. Kyle watched his people train. He'd never thought about it in those terms before. To him, this was just normal. This was life. But through alien eyes, he was starting to understand how abnormal humanity really was. So what happens now, he asked. The galaxy knows what we are. What we're capable of. Where does that leave us? Krell's lights settled into a steady, determined glow. That depends on humans, Commander. You have a choice. You can use your strength to dominate, to conquer, to impose your will on softer species who cannot resist you. Or you can use it to protect, to help, to lift others up as you lift those weights down there. Patricia had joined Nina at the squat rack. They were talking, laughing about something. Then they both loaded the bar together and took turns pushing through their sets, spotting each other, encouraging each other. We're not conquerors, Kyle said firmly. We're just people trying to make our way in a universe that's bigger than we imagined. Yeah, we're strong. Earth made sure of that. But strength isn't about hurting others. It's about having the power to help when help is needed. Then the galaxy has nothing to fear from humanity, Krell said. And perhaps everything to gain. 6 months later, the Interspecies Physical Training and Cultural Exchange Center opened on the lunar surface, built into a crater that allowed for graduated environmental zones. Kyle had been promoted to director, and he stood at the grand opening watching something unprecedented unfold before him. In Zone 1, maintained at Earth standard conditions, 30 humans ran through obstacle courses while holographic displays broadcast their efforts across the galaxy. In Zone 2, set to 0.5 G with enriched oxygen, a group of Rigelian explorers attempted basic calisthenics under human supervision. In Zone 3, protected behind multiple atmospheric barriers, crystalline beings like Krell watched from safety while participating in virtual simulation. This is insane, Nina said beside him, clipboard in hand, with schedules for 200 visiting aliens from 40 different species. 6 months ago, we nearly killed 6 ambassadors. Now we're running a gym for the entire galaxy. Not a gym, Kyle corrected with a slight smile. A cultural exchange center. The council was very specific about that. Right. Because gym where aliens learn to not die around humans didn't sound diplomatic enough. Patricia Vance descended from the administrative level above, her admiral's uniform replaced with the center's sleek training gear. She'd resigned her commission to run the diplomatic side of the operation, arguing that someone with military experience needed to manage the delicate balance of power the center represented. First crisis of the day, she announced. The Zentari delegation wants to attempt what they're calling a human-style workout in Zone 1. Full Earth gravity, standard atmosphere. Kyle pulled up the Zentari physiological profile on his tablet. Bipedal, moderate strength, homeworld at 0.7 G. That's ambitious. Have they completed the Zone 2 training program? All 12 weeks of it, Patricia confirmed. Their lead trainer, someone named Kellos, says they're ready. Claims they've been preparing for this moment since the original incident. Nina checked her own data. Kilos. Yeah, I've been working with their group. They're determined, maybe too determined. I've had to stop them from overtraining 3 times. Let's go meet them, Kyle decided. If they're serious about this, we need to make sure they understand the risks. They found Kellos and 5 other Zentari in the Zone 2 preparation area, going through stretching routines that human trainers had adapted for their physiology. Kellos stood taller than the others, his blue-green skin marked with patterns that indicated leadership status among his people. Director Barrett, Kellos said, approaching with movements that showed significant improvement from 6 months ago. His muscle development was visible even through his workout suit. We are ready to enter Zone 1. We formally request permission. Kyle studied the alien carefully. Kilos, Zone 1 is full Earth standard. 1G, 21% oxygen. The gravity alone will feel like you're carrying a 40-pound weight vest. Are you certain? We are certain, Kalos replied firmly. When Ambassador Krell nearly died in your gym, it shocked our species. The Zentari have always prided ourselves on our physical prowess. We are warriors, explorers, builders. Learning that humans casually exceeded our maximum capabilities was humbling. We want to understand your strength, to experience it, to grow from it. Nina stepped forward. I've trained you for 3 months, Kellos. You've made impressive progress, but I need you to understand what you're asking. In Zone 1, your body weight effectively increases by 43%. Your muscles will work harder for every movement. Your cardiovascular system will be strained. You'll fatigue in minutes doing activities that feel easy here. We understand, another Zentari said, a female whose name registered as Vara. We've studied the human concept of progressive overload, of gradually increasing difficulty to build adaptation. We believe we are ready for this progression. Kyle looked at Patricia, who nodded slightly. This was why the center existed. Not just to show aliens how humans trained, but to help them discover their own potential. All right, Kyle said, but we do this my way. You enter Zone 1 in full medical monitoring gear. Dr. Shaw and his team will be watching every vital sign. At the first sign of distress, you come back to Zone 2. No arguments, no pride. Safety first, understood? The 6 Zentari touched their foreheads in their gesture of solemn agreement. Understood, Director. 30 minutes later, Kyle stood in Zone 1's main training area, watching the Zentari delegation step through the environmental transition chamber. The moment they entered Earth gravity, the difference was visible. Their postures shifted, spines compressing slightly under the increased weight. Their breathing deepened as their lungs worked harder against the denser atmosphere. Kellos took 3 careful steps forward, adjusting to the sensation. His face showed concentration, but not panic. It feels like wearing battle armor, he said, voice steady despite the strain. But we can function. We can move. Good, Nina said, watching her tablet where their vital signs displayed in real time. All readings are elevated but within acceptable ranges. Let's start simple. Kellos, I want you to do 5 bodyweight squats. Just squat down and stand back up. Take your time. Kellos positioned himself carefully, feet shoulder-width apart like Nina had taught him. He descended slowly into a squat, his legs shaking with effort. At the bottom, he paused for a moment, then pushed back up. His breathing came harder, but he completed the movement. 1, Nina counted. Rest if you need to. No rest, Kellos said through gritted teeth. We did not come this far to fail at 5 repetitions. He completed the 2nd squat, then the 3rd. By the 4th, sweat poured down his face, but his form remained solid. The 5th squat took him 10 seconds to complete, but he finished standing tall. 5 completed, Nina announced, her voice carrying pride. Kellos, do you understand what you just did? You completed a basic human workout movement in full Earth gravity. 6 months ago, that would have been impossible. Kalos looked at his hands, flexing fingers that trembled with exhaustion. This is what human children do? These exercises. Human children do hundreds of these, Kyle confirmed. But they've been living in this gravity their entire lives. You've had 6 months of preparation. What you just accomplished is remarkable. Vera stepped forward next. I want to try. I must know my limits. The other Zentari followed her lead, each attempting the squats under Nina's careful supervision. 2 completed all 5 repetitions. 1 managed 3 before her legs gave out, forcing her to stop. The final 2 pushed through all 5 but required several minutes of rest between each repetition. Kyle watched their struggles with something unexpected stirring in his chest. Not pity. Not superiority, something closer to respect. These beings had every reason to avoid Earth gravity. They'd seen what it could do to unprepared species, yet they'd chosen to face it anyway to test themselves against a standard that their evolution never prepared them for. Director, Vincent's voice came through Kyle's earpiece from the medical station. All 6 Zentari are showing significant physiological stress, but nothing dangerous. However, I recommend limiting this session to 15 minutes total. They're adapting, but we shouldn't push too far on the first attempt. Agreed, Kyle said. He turned to Kalos. You've got 10 more minutes. What do you want to do with them? Kalos looked around the gym, taking in the equipment that humans use daily. His eyes settled on a set of dumbbells, the lightest ones available. 5 pounds each. I want to lift weights, he said, like humans do. Even if I can only manage the smallest ones, I want to experience what you feel when you train. Nina handed him the dumbbells and Kalos gripped them in his hands. In Zone 2, these would have felt like nothing. Here, under Earth's full gravity, his arms visibly strained to hold them steady. Bicep curls, Nina instructed. Bend your elbow, bring the weight to your shoulder, slow and controlled. Kalos performed the movement, his face contorted with effort. The 5-pound dumbbell rose like it weighed 50. But he completed the curl, then another, then a third. Enough, Patricia said gently. You've proven your point. You've earned your achievement. The Zentari returned to Zone 2 through the transition chamber, their bodies sagging with relief as the gravity lessened. But their faces showed something that Kyle recognized immediately. The same expression humans wore after completing a brutal workout. Exhaustion mixed with satisfaction, pain mixed with pride. That was the hardest physical challenge of my life, Kalos said once he could speak normally again. And I have fought in actual combat. I have climbed mountains on my homeworld. I have endured survival training designed to break warriors. None of that compared to 15 minutes in Zone 1. Now you understand, Kyle said quietly. That's what humans do every single day, just by existing on Earth. Kalos met his eyes and Kyle saw genuine understanding there. Yes, now I understand. You are not warriors because you train. You train because you are warriors. Your world made you that way. Every human is forged in Earth's crucible from birth. Bara moved to stand beside Kalos, her own exhaustion evident. Director Barrett, how long would it take for us to be able to train regularly in Zone 1? To build enough strength that we could work out like humans do? Nina consulted her physiological models. Maybe decades. Your species didn't evolve for this. But with consistent training, gradual progression, proper nutrition, and adequate rest, you could potentially adapt to function in Earth gravity for extended periods. You'd never match human baseline strength, but you could get strong enough to be comfortable there. Then that is what we will do, Kalos declared. The Zentari delegation volunteers to be the test case. We will train. We will adapt. We will prove that other species can learn from human example, even if we cannot match human capability. Patricia smiled, seeing the broader implications. You realize what you're proposing? You'd be the first non-human species to undergo long-term human-style physical training? The data we'd gather would revolutionize interspecies physiology research. More than that, Kalos said, his conviction absolute. We would be showing the galaxy that humans are not unreachable, that your strength is not a wall separating you from us. That we can bridge the gap even if we cannot cross it completely. Understanding breeds cooperation. Cooperation breeds unity. Kyle thought about the 6 crystalline aliens who'd nearly died 6 months ago. About the fear and confusion that had filled the Galactic Council. About the galaxy learning to fear humanity's impossible strength. And now, watching these Centauri warriors recover from 15 minutes in Earth gravity with pride on their faces, he saw a different path forward. Not fear, not separation, understanding. 3 years passed, and the Interspecies Physical Training and Cultural Exchange Center became something nobody had anticipated. What began as a diplomatic gesture transformed into a movement that reshaped galactic culture. Kyle walked through the expanded Zone 1 facility on the anniversary of its founding, watching scenes that would have seemed impossible when this journey started. Telos and his original Centauri team were running laps around the track, their pace steady and strong. Nearby, a group of insectoid Thrussians performed modified push-ups under human supervision, their carapaces gleaming with effort. In the wait area, a trio of methane-breathing Solvex worked through resistance training in specialized sealed suits that had taken 2 years to develop. "Director, you need to see this," Nina called from the main observation platform. Her role had evolved from trainer to chief of interspecies athletic development. She'd written 4 textbooks on cross-species fitness adaptation and trained over 300 alien coaches. Kyle joined her at the screen, showing live feeds from 72 facilities across 19 worlds, each one modeled after the original center, each one filled with aliens pushing themselves through training programs designed by humans. Zone 12 on Rigel Prime just reported their first success case, Nina said, pulling up detailed metrics. A Rigelian female named Thessia completed a full human standard workout in 1G, 30 minutes of continuous exercise. She's the first of her species to achieve it. Kyle studied the data, impressed despite himself. Rigelians were among the frailer species, with homeworld gravity at 0.4 G. For one to function athletically in Earth conditions represented years of dedication. "How long did she train?" he asked. 2 years, 8 months. Progressive adaptation starting from her baseline. Her bone density increased by 42%. Muscle mass up 68%. Cardiovascular efficiency improved by 93%. Nina shook her head in wonder. "She's not human strong, but she's stronger than any Rigelian in recorded history." Patricia entered the observation deck carrying a data chip that she immediately plugged into the central console. "You both need to see what the Galactic Medical Consortium just published. It's going to change everything." A research paper materialized on the screens, dense with medical terminology and statistical analysis. Kyle scanned the abstract, and his eyes widened. "They're calling it the Barrett Protocol," Patricia said with a slight smile. "Named after you for pioneering the methodology." The consortium analyzed 3 years of data from 12,000 aliens who've undergone human-style training. The results are unprecedented. Nina read aloud from the conclusion. Species-appropriate resistance training combined with graduated gravity exposure produces measurable improvements in bone density, muscle development, cardiovascular health, immune function, and longevity markers across all tested physiologies. Average lifespan extension projections range from 8 to 23% depending on species baseline. Kyle let that sink in. "We're making them live longer? Not just longer," Patricia clarified. "Better. Healthier. Stronger." The data shows dramatic reductions in degenerative conditions, improved cognitive function, enhanced emotional regulation. Turns out that physical training affects a lot more than just muscles. It's changing their entire biology. Movement on the gym floor caught Kyle's attention. Ambassador Krell had entered Zone 1, moving with confidence that would have been unthinkable 3 years ago. The crystalline being still wore a partial gravity compensator, but it was set to only offset 30% of Earth's pull. He was handling 70% naturally. "Ambassador?" Kyle greeted through the intercom. "You're early for your session." "I wanted to see the anniversary crowds," Krell replied, his translator conveying warmth. 3 years ago, I nearly died here. Today, I train here twice a week. The transformation feels symbolic." Kelos approached Krell on the gym floor, and the two aliens clasped appendages in the universal gesture of respect that had emerged from the training culture. Beings from different worlds, different evolutionary paths, different capabilities, united by shared effort. "Director Barrett!" A new voice called from the entrance. Kyle turned to see a human woman in military dress uniform, accompanied by two officials he recognized from Earth's government. "I'm Captain Denise Crawford from Colonial Defense. We need to discuss an urgent matter." They moved to Kyle's private office, where Denise activated a security field and pulled up classified reports. "Sir, we have a developing situation in the Outer Rim. A previously unknown species called the Krixar have been raiding colony worlds. They're aggressive, powerful, and technologically advanced. They've destroyed 3 outposts in the past month." "What does this have to do with the training center?" Kyle asked. "Everything," one of the government officials said. "The Krixar from a high-gravity world. Not as extreme as Earth, but close. 1.4 G. Dense atmosphere. Their warriors are physically formidable. They've been crushing resistance from standard galactic species who can't match their strength." Denise brought up tactical footage showing Krixar soldiers in action. Pair. They move like humans, with power and confidence born from challenging environments. They wore minimal armor because their natural resilience made heavy protection unnecessary. They were winning battles through sheer physical dominance. "The Galactic Council is requesting human military intervention," the second official continued. "But there's a complication. The Council is also asking for volunteers from the training program. Aliens who've undergone the Barrett Protocol. They want to form combined units." Kyle understood immediately. "They want aliens trained by us to fight alongside us. More than that," Denise said. "They want to prove that the training center's mission works in the real world. That species cooperation based on shared physical development can stand against conventional military threats. This would be the first true test." Mina had followed them into the office, and her face showed the same concern Kyle felt. "These aliens aren't soldiers, they're athletes, students. We train them to be healthy, not to fight." "Some of them are soldiers," Patricia countered, having joined the conversation. "We have military personnel from 8 species in the program, and Kelos himself was a warrior before he became a trainer. They understand what combat means." Kyle moved to the window overlooking the gym floor. Dozens of aliens were training down there, pushing themselves through workouts that their species had never attempted before. They'd come seeking strength, seeking understanding, seeking connection with humanity's impossible baseline. Now that strength might be tested in ways none of them had imagined. "I need to talk to them," Kyle decided. "No volunteer assignments. No pressure. But they deserve to know what's happening and what the galaxy is asking of them." An hour later, Kyle stood before an assembly of 200 aliens in the center's main auditorium. Humans filled the back rows, trainers who'd worked with these beings for years. The air hummed with anticipation. "You all know by now about the Krixar threat," Kyle began, his voice carrying through the chamber. "The Galactic Council has requested a volunteer force of humans and trained aliens to respond. I want to be clear about what this means. This isn't a training exercise. This is combat. Real danger. Real consequences." Kelos stood from his seat. "Director, with respect, many of us already understand combat. We came here not just to learn human training methods, but to learn human warrior spirit, to understand how your species turns hardship into strength. If that understanding means nothing when tested, then what was the point?" Murmurs of agreement rippled through the alien attendees. Vara rose next. "For 3 years, humans have taught us that limits are meant to be tested, that difficulty is the path to growth, that working together makes everyone stronger. The Krixar are strong because their world made them that way, just as Earth made you strong. But they fight alone. We fight together." A Rigelian in the front row activated his translator. "I was weak when I arrived here. My people are weak by galactic standards, but I am not weak anymore. I may never match a human or a Krixar in strength, but I am stronger than I was. That strength was earned through effort. I want to prove it means something." More aliens stood, each adding their voice. Species that had been considered fragile, delicate, unsuited for physical challenge. They'd transformed themselves through dedication and now wanted to show the galaxy what they'd become. Kyle felt emotion tighten his throat. If you volunteer, you'll train alongside human special forces. You'll be integrated into combat units where your unique capabilities can be maximized. Nobody expects you to become human. We expect you to be the best version of your own species. And we'll fight beside you as equals. Patricia stepped forward. All volunteers report to Briefing Room Alpha tomorrow at 06:00. We ship out in 72 hours. And understand this, you won't be alone out there. Every human who's trained with you, who's spotted your lifts, who's pushed you through one more rep when you wanted to quit, we're all coming with you. The response was immediate. Over half the aliens in the auditorium moved toward the volunteer registration stations. Kelos led the Zentari delegation. The Regilians followed. The Threscians, the Solvex, species from a dozen worlds who'd spent years learning to function in conditions that would have killed them 3 years ago. Nina stood beside Kyle, watching the volunteer numbers climb. We built this place to prevent war, she said quietly, to create understanding. We did create understanding, Kyle replied, watching Kelos helping a smaller alien fill out registration forms. They understand now what humans have always known, that strength isn't about domination. It's about having the power to protect what matters. They're not fighting because they're strong. They're fighting because they're strong enough to choose to stand with us. On the gym floor below, training continued. Humans and aliens working together, pushing each other, building something unprecedented. The center had started as an apology, a way to help the galaxy understand humanity's dangerous baseline. It had become something far more important. It had become a bridge. The combined force assembled on the carrier Resilience, humanity's newest warship designed with multi-species capabilities. Kyle stood on the command deck beside Admiral Chen, a veteran of the Colonial Defense Fleet, watching the organized chaos of preparation. 200 human Special Forces operators moved through final equipment checks, while 1043 alien volunteers prepared in specialized sections of the ship. This is either brilliant or completely insane, Admiral Chen said, studying tactical displays showing Krixar positions in the Outer Rim. We're taking civilians who learn to do push-ups and putting them against warriors who've been conquering systems for decades. They're not civilians anymore, Kyle corrected. And they didn't just learn push-ups. They learned to exceed their evolutionary limits. That mindset matters in combat. The ship's tactical officer, Commander Luis Ramirez, pulled up comparative strength assessments. Sir, the Krixar are formidable. Average warrior generates force equivalent to 0.8 human baseline. Their bone density and muscle composition puts them above most galactic species. They've adapted combat tactics that leverage their physical superiority. 0.8 human baseline, Nina repeated, having been assigned as liaison officer between human and alien units. So they're strong, but not as strong as us. No, Ramirez confirmed. But they're used to being the strongest thing in the room. They've built their entire military doctrine around overwhelming physical dominance. Most species can't stand against them hand to hand. Patricia entered the command deck wearing combat gear, having volunteered for field duty despite her rank. The alien units are settled. Kalos is organizing the Zentari into fire support teams. The Regilians are running sensor operations using their enhanced sensory abilities. The Threscians want close combat roles because their exoskeletons can take hits that would incapacitate softer species. They're thinking tactically, Admiral Chen noted with approval, using their unique advantages rather than trying to mirror human capabilities. That's what we taught them, Kyle said. Work with what you have, improve what you can, and support each other's weaknesses. The ship's intercom activated. All personnel, jump in 30 seconds. Brace for transition. Reality twisted as the Resilience dropped into faster-than-light travel, crossing light years in moments. When they emerged, a contested colony world filled the view screens. 3 Krixar warships orbited above a human settlement that showed signs of heavy damage. Multiple Krixar ground forces detected, the sensor officer reported. Approximately 500 combatants occupying the main colonial complex. They've fortified defensive positions and are using human civilians as shields. Admiral Chen's expression hardened. Admiral Chen's expression. They know we can't just bombard them from orbit. They want us to come down and fight on their terms. Then that's what we'll do, Patricia said firmly. But not the way they expect. The battle plan came together rapidly. Human special forces would drop in combat pods for direct assault. The alien volunteers would deploy in support roles initially, using their varied capabilities to provide tactical advantages. Most importantly, they'd demonstrate that the Krixar weren't facing standard galactic resistance anymore. Kyle joined the drop team, sealed into powered armor that would protect him during the high-speed descent. Around him, human operators checked weapons and ran through final preparations with the calm focus of professionals. In adjacent base sections, alien volunteers prepared in their own specialized equipment. All teams, this is Admiral Chen. The Krixar think they're the apex predators in this sector. They've built their confidence on crushing weaker species. Today, they learn what happens when predators meet something that doesn't break. Show them what training means. Show them what unity creates. Drop pods launched, screaming through atmosphere like meteors. Kyle's pod rattled violently, compensators struggling against the intense forces. Beside him, Kalos occupied a reinforced pod designed for his physiology. The Zentari warrior's face visible through the viewport, set with determined focus. They hit the ground in a coordinated spread, pods slamming into dirt around the colonial complex. Kyle's door blew open, and he rolled out, weapon up, scanning for threats. Human operators deployed around him with practiced efficiency. 100 meters away, alien pods opened and their volunteers emerged into their first real combat. The Krixar response was immediate. Warriors that stood 8 feet tall in heavy armor charged from fortified positions, clearly confident that their physical superiority would carry the day, as it had against every other species they'd encountered. They'd never fought humans before. The first Krixar warrior to reach human lines swung a massive powered club that could shatter standard galactic armor. The human operator ducked under the swing and returned fire with a kinetic rifle that punched through Krixar defenses. The warrior staggered but didn't fall, its enhanced physiology absorbing damage that would have killed frailer beings. Then Kelos and his Zentari team opened fire from an elevated position, their weapons modified for their grip strength and reaction speed. The crossfire forced the Krixar into cover, disrupting their charge. They'd expected easy prey. Instead, they faced coordinated resistance. All units, push forward, Patricia commanded over the tactical net. Zentari teams maintained suppressing fire. Rigelian sensors mark Krixar positions. Thrussian units prepare for close engagement when they counterattack. The battle devolved into brutal close-quarters fighting as Krixar warriors realized their initial assault had failed. Kyle found himself facing a Krixar soldier in hand-to-hand combat, their respective enhancements making them near equals in strength. The warrior's eyes showed shock when Kyle matched its power, when human training and earth-forged muscle met Krixar natural advantage, and neither gave ground. Impossible, the warrior growled through its translator. You should not be this strong. Earth made us this way, Kyle replied, executing a combat technique that sent the warrior sprawling, and we taught our friends to be stronger too. A Thrussian named Krell charged past Kyle, its insectoid body moving with speed that 3 years ago would have been impossible for its species. It tackled a Krixar warrior twice its mass, using technique and leverage that human trainers had spent months teaching. The warrior went down, shocked that something smaller could overcome it. Across the battlefield, the Krixar's confidence shattered. They'd built their empire on being the strongest, the most physically capable, but humans matched them pound for pound, and the alien volunteers fought with intelligence and coordination that made up for individual strength differences. Dare breaking, Ramirez reported from the Resilience. Krixar forces are retreating to their ships. They're trying to evacuate. Don't let them, Admiral Chen ordered. Disable their vessels. We're taking prisoners, not letting them regroup and attack someone else. The Resilience's weapons spoke precise strikes that crippled Krixar ships without destroying them. On the ground, Krixar warriors found themselves surrounded by a force they'd underestimated catastrophically. They'd thought they were raiding another weak colony. Instead, they'd encountered Earth's children and their students. The surrender came within the hour. Krixar warriors kneeling in defeat, their armor scored and their pride shattered. Kyle watched as human medics treated wounded on both sides while alien volunteers from the training program helped secure prisoners with professional competence. Kalos approached a captured Krixar commander, the two warriors studying each other with mutual respect born from combat. "Your strength is impressive," Kalos said through his translator. "Under different circumstances, we could have learned much from each other." The Krixar commander's eyes showed confusion. "You are Zentari. Your species is weak. How did you stand against us?" "We were weak," Kalos agreed. "Then humans taught us that weakness is not permanent, that limits can be pushed, that strength can be built. They showed us their training, their dedication, their refusal to accept that anything is impossible. And we learned." Kyle joined them, removing his helmet. The Krixar commander stared at him, recognition dawning. "You are human. From the Death World. Earth. Yes," Kyle confirmed. "And these aren't weak species anymore. They trained with us. They grew with us. You didn't lose to humans alone. You lost to what humans can create when we work together with others." Patricia's voice came over the command channel. "All units, colonial civilians, are secure. Medical teams report no critical casualties among our forces. Mission successful." The journey back to the Resilience felt different than the deployment. Human operators and alien volunteers mixed freely, sharing combat rations and swapping stories about the fight. Barriers that might have persisted for years dissolved in the shared experience of battle. In the ship's medical bay, Dr. Vincent Shaw treated minor injuries while collecting data that would revolutionize combat medicine. "The alien volunteers performed beyond all projections," he reported. "Their enhanced physiology from years of training made them far more resilient than baseline members of their species. The Rigelian who took shrapnel damage, her bone density was sufficient to prevent serious injury. 3 years ago, that wound would have been fatal." Kyle found Kelos in the observation lounge, staring at the stars as the Resilience prepared for the jump home. The Zentari warrior's body showed signs of exhaustion, but his posture conveyed satisfaction. "We proved something today," Kelos said without turning. "Not just that we can fight, that we can stand beside humans as equals in the places that matter most. But the galaxy feared your strength. Now they'll see that strength shared is strength multiplied." "The Krixar will talk," Kyle said. "They'll tell other species what happened here. How they got beaten by humans and aliens working together." "Good," Kalos replied. "Let them talk. Let the galaxy know that Earth's children don't conquer. They teach. They lift others up. They turn weakness into strength and fear into understanding. That message is worth more than any military victory." Nina joined them at the viewport, her tablet showing reports flooding in from across known space. "The Galactic Council is calling this the Battle of New Foundation. They're already discussing restructuring their defense forces based on integrated human-alien training protocols. 16 more species have requested admission to the training centers." Patricia arrived with Admiral Chen, both looking tired but pleased. "The Krixar have agreed to negotiations," Chen announced. "Their leadership wants to understand how we defeated their warriors so decisively." "They're asking about the training program." Kyle smiled, seeing the pattern emerge. "They want to know our secret. How we took species they considered weak and made them dangerous. So we tell them," Patricia said simply. "We show them the training centers. We offer them the same opportunity we gave everyone else. We turn enemies into students, students into allies. That's how Earth wins wars, by making sure there don't need to be wars." The Resilience jumped to light speed, carrying its crew back toward Earth and the training centers that had become the galaxy's unexpected path to peace. Behind them, a colony world recovered under protection of forces that had proven strength alone wasn't enough when strength met purpose. In 3 years, 6 aliens had nearly died in a human gym. Now hundreds of aliens had